my name is Julie Julius, and this is a Prezi on debunking myths and how people learn. For my Prezi, I chose the Braincraft video entitled 4 Philosophical Myths That You Probably Thought Were True by Vanessa Hill. Her first myth was all about the Mozart effect. I felt like this was pretty accurate because listening to classical music may not make you more intelligent. There was an article that was stated the effect varies between individuals and depends on the spatial test chosen, and that it was general intelligence was not affected. And that's what she stated as well, is that the Mozart effect only helps retention for just a few minutes and only in like spatial awareness things and not overall. However, I found some other parts of it that, like Carey had stated in his book, having something going on in the study environment, like music, is better than nothing. And there was another article written by Michael Linson that brought up a point in favor of classical music. Teachers who regularly play Mozart while students are practicing math skills report that it helps with concentration and attentiveness. And there was, as I researched this even more, there were things on articles stating that hotels and other places will play soft, calm classical music in the background to help people feel safe and secure and calm when they walk in. And so as students feel that way, safe and calm, and having that feeling, then they would have a better memory. So that would really help them. So although I feel like it's accurate, it also has some misconceptions. The second myth, however, I feel is very accurate. When I was a student and in school, I felt like photographic memories were available to just certain individual students. However, now we realize, as Hill stated, people have memories that may have exceptional ability to process or organize information efficiently, but it's not the same as having that image in their head like a camera. And Carey agreed with her when he writes, photographic memories, as far as scientists can tell at this point, do not exist, at least not in the way that we imagined them. The third myth talked about keeping your brain young. Will games help? And in my classroom, we try to do as many games as possible because they motivate learners. And in her study, it talked about 60 to 90-year-olds, but as over the last 3 weeks of our research, most of it had to do with school-age learners, and the evidence do support that it helps memory and learning in school-age learners. The article, as for one of our readings, said that practice testing in a variety of ways will help with retention, as well, like distributed practice and perceptual learning. All of the sensory learning that goes on that we don't even know of that is happening really is active, and games will just help that. So although I don't know if I totally believe in what she had to say with that. But the myth 4 was all about that our first guess isn't always best. There's parts of this that I feel like is very true. Hill states that the most changes are from incorrect to correct answers, and as I researched, I did see that. 51% in a couple of studies that I saw, or right around 50%, were from incorrect to correct responses, where only 25 went from an incorrect, or from a correct response to an incorrect, and 23% went from an incorrect to an incorrect. But I feel like students, we don't take into account all of the answers that we keep correct, that we went with our gut feeling. And Carey wrote, while he was taking a test, no thinking aloud, he just quickly was glancing at paintings and hitting the button as fast as he could, and he did very well, like 80% on his test. So I feel like there's parts of this that is true and research does prove, but I want evidence to support my student learning, so when they go back and understand that they have to check their answers, then yes, they're going to change some of their answers, but to also believe in that gut feeling, because as Carey stated, it can really help you. An overview to this whole is research helps us understand and aid educators and to allow students to feel successful and show growth. However, learning begins when students feel safe at school, when they build relationships with staff and students here, and when they have opportunity to get to know what works for them. Study habits are individual and widespread throughout a classroom. An article on improving student learning with effective learning techniques talked about that the techniques vary widely with respect to their generalizability and promise for improving student learning. And so all it's saying is that it's so individual. How we learn is very individual. This research helps us to get students to understand their learning styles, but ultimately it's up to them. Thank you.